Thanks.
Thank you very much. All right, I'll now call to order the Town of Elon Town Council meeting for May 22nd, 2023. If all who are able will please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the
United
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey. Moving on, we are gonna open up our public comments. This is an opportunity for members of the public to share their concerns or wishes for the town. Each individual will be granted 3 minutes to share items that are not on the agenda this evening. I believe we have members of our skating community who would like to share, or one person. Oh, sorry. Stephanie Borland is online today. She is still dealing with some health issues. So it looks like Jeremiah. Did you want to speak?
No, Scott.
Oh, Scott. All right, Scott. The floor is yours.
Hello, Mayor and Town Council. I appreciate you hearing me out. My name is Scott Ingalls. I am a local of Alamance County by way of Burlington. I've lived in Elon several different points in my life. But I am 37 years old. I have 2 daughters, a 10-year-old and a 14-year-old. I am a skateboarder of 24 years now. And I am here to speak and just assure you guys, I want to let you know that what you are going to do, if you choose to do this, is a great thing for this county. It'll be the first free to skate park. It will open up doors and opportunities for people in this area that haven't really been. There was a time where there was public parks, but that's a very hard, a private park. That's a very hard business to keep alive. Public and free to skate parks are the best way to grow a skateboard community, especially in your area, and especially if you're the first one to do it, because the people will come, and I hate to use this, I know it's cheesy, but if you build it, they will come.
Straight to a cornfield.
I promise you. Field of Dreams, I had it right in that sense, but the biggest thing you should keep in mind is that if you are to do this, it is worth investing in. It's worth investing as much as you possibly can to build it right and design it properly, because then it will truly be utilized by people from all over the state, and even people, skateboard teams come through nationally, they might stop at your park. That's a big thing in the eye of the skateboard community. And you allow for events to happen at these kinds of things. It helps grow it. It helps bring in commerce to your area. It will provide, let's see how I want to put this. It will provide a safe space for people to do this in, but it will also bring people into your area to participate in your local economy. It will help grow that. And if you ever have any questions, I suggest you look to Mayor Jock in Apex. There's a couple of different interviews with him online about this, and he does nothing but praise these types of things. What he did in Apex, because they had a lot of doubts about it. So if you choose to do this, then you are helping give kids, especially today, after COVID in the past 3 years that we all went through, kids today are suffering in more ways than one. And I implore you, these guys could testify to that, like picking up a skateboard and starting that probably helped y'all through some of that, right? I mean, it's a big way to express yourself. It's a big way to actually relieve mental anguish and stress. It's a good way for your for children to have an alternative to traditional sports. It is now an Olympic sport. It is a possibility that you grow an Olympic athlete in your area just because you decided to provide kids or adults even to with the chance and the opportunity to utilize your facilities. Your investment in this is far supersedes all of us, really. And so I do implore you to let us help you in any way, shape, or form to create the best possible thing you can. We'll raise money. We'll do anything we can to help this happen. We promise that. We do not want you guys to feel like this would be a waste in any way, shape. We would support this and we will utilize it. And parents will bring their kids here. It will be utilized in ways you wouldn't think it would be utilized. Birthday parties, gatherings for family, all sorts of things that, when you have Beshmet Park has a playground, has all those facilities there, then you have a skate park right beside of it where some of the family members that might be in those types of things would go and have a place to utilize it. Just a lot of opportunities for it to be used. And I don't believe that it would be a waste in any way, shape, or form of your money or resources. And then the last thing, you really would be helping the community grow here in Alamance County. You guys being the first one is a big deal. And I just wanted to come today to speak and to assure you that it would be worth your time and everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to share a public comment? Share your name as well and your address.
For now, from Greensboro, North Carolina, 406 Corinthian Way. And I'm a student at Elon University, I'm about to be a junior. And I sort of help run a group called Elon Wheels, which is like kind of our skate club. It's unofficial still, but we've held a few like meetups in the back parking lot of one of the school buildings here. We had about 40 to 50 people show up. I think it was about maybe 10-ish students and about 30 to 40 locals, and just giving them a space where they can sort of congregate and, get to know each other and meet up and just skateboard all together in one spot is amazing. And I think having the city build a skate park, getting them all together in that particular spot, like a permanent place where they can skateboard would just be really helpful to the skate community here in New York.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, we will close the public comment section. Thank you all so much. You're welcome to stay if you enjoy staying at meetings in the evening. But if not, you're welcome to go. We really appreciate y'all being here. Okay, moving on to public hearings. We have a public hearing on parking violation fine increases. Comments before we open that? Nothing to add?
Nothing to add from last meeting, sorry, not on my game today.
No problem. All right, we will now open the public hearing. Anyone online?
Not with a comment, no.
We will now close the public hearing. Are you looking for any action on that this evening or?
You can take action on it, if you want to. We can bring it back in 2 weeks, for a vote if you'd rather do it that way.
We can ruminate over the public comments. I'm sure there were tons while I was out there.
Yeah, you missed several, yes. And so the proposal is our current fine is $25, which would increase to $35 after 15 days and $74 after 45 days. The proposal is to increase the parking fine to $40 and then $65 after 15 days and $100 after 45 days.
That's correct.
Any comments on that? I know we had some discussions last week on that. There were discussions if that was high enough or what we wanted to do, but just wondering if anyone had additional thoughts this week.
I think it's worth just pointing out, we provide a lot of free public parking. And the only way some towns charge for parking. And that's how they generate turnover parking spaces. We time limit it, but the only way we have to enforce those time limits is through parking fines and the number of tickets that we issue would suggest that quite a few people don't care about getting parking tickets. And will just leave their vehicles there extended periods of time, taking up spaces that are intended to be turned over, utilized for customers downtown.
I have a question. So let's say that I went downtown and I parked in a 1 hour parking spot. And I decided that I was gonna park there for 9 hours. Well, at hour 1, I get a parking ticket. What happens for the next 8 hours? Nothing.
You get to park there all day, essentially. We don't really. We had a couple instances where we did one in the morning and one in the afternoon, but there was some directives from, I think this predates Rich, but there was some theory and belief behind that the 2 were enough, probably 1's enough per day. So that was the direction we went in.
Yeah, I do have a question. So there, in no time would we be allowed to tow that vehicle? Like if it were several days, what would be the?
So once they have an overdue parking, which is after 15 days and then a 45-day, we could then, but no, we're not allowed to tow just because they went over on their 1 hour, 2 hour parking that day.
I guess what I was getting, say somebody's car broke down, they stopped. Would we ticket them each day?
Yes.
And in 15 days after the first ticket?
We make every effort to identify that person. We'll run their tag, we'll make contact, we'll send other, if it's in a Greensboro residence, we'll send Greensboro by their house to figure out what's going on with the car. If the university student, we do the same thing, we extend the same courtesies. We do our due diligence to try to understand and make sure, number one, there's not something else going on, something more nefarious, someone's missing, someone's been abducted. But each day they get a parking ticket. We had a young man who just forgot where he parked his car and he was out there for 8 days. We identified him, he was fine. It was a nice car too, but he had 8 parking tickets. So that's generally what happens. And those are few and far between. They're rare. We normally see it if they've overindulged at one of the bars, they'll leave their cars there, and you know that we'd rather them do that and collect a parking ticket, maybe them appeal it and come and have a hearing, and we may dismiss that second ticket rather than drink and drive. So we handle them each on a case by case basis.
And the towing is after 15 days if they haven't paid?
They have to have at least, yes, one unpaid past due parking ticket before we can start towing that vehicle. If we catch it again.
And how do you keep track of that? Because I thought we couldn't find repeat offenders to make it higher. So how would we know if somebody has it?
Yeah, so our parking guys, normally they're not gonna recognize someone who is a one-time past due. Generally, it's those real repeat offenders that have 4, 3, 4, 5 parking tickets that's caught their attention. It's just their system and their memory. They jot things down and they're looking for these specific reoffenders. They kind of have their own like little hot file, I guess you want to call it. And it's things that just stick out in the memory. They recognize vehicles it would not stand out to me just because they're dealing with it day in and day out. But again, going back to that point, it's not like they recognize instantly that this person got a parking ticket yesterday. And you know, they know the rules, so they're a repeat offender. It's those egregious cases that we see that they memorize.
I did have one other question. On average, how many tickets would you write a day?
I don't have that figure. I know over the past couple years, we average 800 to 900 tickets a year. So some days are better or heavier traffic or heavier business than others, but I don't know per day, but like I said, last 2 or 3 years, they've averaged 800, 900 tickets per year, which I thought was fairly low. I was expecting that to be a little higher,
Seems low.
20 a week during when school's in?
possibly.
Probably more when school's in.
Yeah, I was gonna say summertime.
Yes.
Well, and you remove the weekends too, right?
Right. So it's Monday through Friday, just say 8 o'clock till 7:30. Weekends are off unless an officer happens to see something that. Maybe someone parked in handicap, something more egregious than just a timed violation.
I recommend we try this.
I mean, it's the first step.
I mean, question is if we're trying to
Stephanie
change
might
that.
have a comment.
Yeah.
before we-
Stephanie submitted a question about how our businesses feel about this. And I believe Jill has talked to the Downtown Advisory Board on, you know,
I do not know.
I thought it was a conversation that had taken place.
Yeah, I think when we talked about it a couple weeks ago, I mean, I think that the downtown businesses are even supportive of metered parking during certain times as well. Because they're having the same problem with students. Not always students, but mostly students parking right in front of their business, limiting the ability for a customer to come in. So,
And you're right, at the last downtown advisory committee meeting, that's exactly, that was kind of the synopsis that the business owners are for this and some meter.
and so I do have a question. So if in the future we do go to some sort of metered parking system, would we look at changing this again, or would we just keep it in place because they're still out parking what they're allowed? This wouldn't change, right? This would stay the same even if we turned it to meter?
You could. Yeah,
It's something we'd have to decide at that point.
yes, ma'am.
Monty?
I think if we think $40 will change behavior. It certainly can't increase the number of people who are gonna park illegally. 25 to 40 seems like significant, but and you said a lot of these people are repeat offenders. I think we tried proposed $40.
I know we talked about it a couple weeks ago about some signage, right? So like under where it says 1 hour parking, to also put what the parking fine is, just so that there's some education around that. I wonder if there's a way of, and I don't really like this in like general terms, so I feel like this is a time when I can think like this. is Finding a way to not be dishonest, but also say that we could technically tow their vehicle, although they have to have a late fee. Do you know what I'm saying? Like towing
Towing enforced?
possible? Yeah, towing enforced, just say towing enforced. I mean, I feel like that would get
You may
someone's
be towed.
attention. Yeah. $40 fine, you may be towed. Now, Thomas, don't give away our secret.
That's what I'm here for. There are no secrets between us.
I think doing that. I think private property has a right to do that.
Well, I don't
But
think-
we do if they have an existing ticket, but I'm just saying like, that would get my attention way more than a ticket. And I generally like to follow the rules. I like rules, but
When you're getting your hair done.
except when I'm getting my hair done, and then there's an exception, but
Well, I definitely think this has opened up, like, let's try this. This definitely has opened up an idea of how do we do this? Especially it's new news for me was somebody could park there for 9 hours, only get one ticket. And that's something I feel like we could look into. $40 for me to park here all day.
We
Do it.
can look for that map and find a new direction perhaps.
Sure, but even with the towing, like I definitely think that we talked about it last time, you know, it only took the middle parking lot a couple tows and everybody's
mhm.
word got out. So figuring out how we can tow, and that might have to be getting those systems where we are tracking the people that are parking.
So it was we had to go to the state legislature to even get it approved for us to tow after parking fees were delayed. So I don't think we have the option to tow from a public parking space just because you stay there so long. And well, there's some sort of caveat to that because when we had our festival for the 125th, we did put up signs that said all vehicles on the street at this time will be towed because we needed to have the street cleared.
Right, we do have it in the ordinance on special occasions that the chief of police has the authority to limit that and to tow if necessary for special events. But it can't be for extended period of time. We did get some pushback on also the number of days for outstanding parking tickets or how many parking tickets we had to have originally from legislation. So they were not super keen on one parking ticket. I will tell you that Kathleen Patterson of all people pushed that and she fought very hard for that. I think our representatives wanted at least 3 days or 3 outstanding parking tickets. So she pushed really hard and advocated for it. But we do have the ability through state legislation that we can limit parking based on special events, on special occasions, such as blocking off streets where we can't have parking down there and we tow cars out from that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm still saying like, you don't have to be necessarily misleading to say like, this is the ordinance, like according to Elon ordinance, blah, 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 blah. The town has the right to tow in whatever certain instances. Just because it gets their attention, that's gonna get someone's attention way more than $40. I'm just thinking like, is there a way to like think outside the box to have better enforcement on the individual side so that the town isn't constantly having to enforce it, but it's just enforcing itself because we've given a warning.
We could certainly work with Bob to figure out what kind of language we could use that is gonna pass muster on at least
Yeah,
alerting folks that towing is a potential.
yeah, just
penalty.
to see if we have any options, because that will get people's attention. I also think posting what the fine is, but maybe let's see what Bob says, and then we can maybe come up with something to go up underneath the current signage, just like a little placard or whatever. That states. We can make a motion.
Stephanie, that raised a second question about whether repeat offenders can be towed.
I think we answered that question already.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that you can't tow somebody just because they had a lot of parking tickets.
It has to be overdue.
Overdue, yes.
Could we use like a QR code to statute? It's there. Those are on our website.
We add that in your notes for,
No, we don't have to have the whole verbiage.
right?
My suggestion would be not to have the verbiage, just put the citation, something like towing may be enforced per
Yeah,
citation and that kind of simplicity. And if they want to figure it out, they can figure it out.
I make a motion, we. Change. $40.
second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
And that will take effect July 1.
Okay.
Because we'll put the new fines in the fee schedule you adopt with the budget, which will be effective July 1.
Thank you all very much. Moving on to old business, board discussion of proposed fiscal year 24 budget.
We had a public hearing 2 weeks ago. And as I recall, we had nobody in attendance to comment about the proposed budget. I know the board received one letter from a resident. I received another letter that I forwarded to the board. Expressing concerns about budget numbers, and with the mayor, we thought it'd be a good idea to at least have the discussion on the agenda in case there were any questions that you wanted to follow up on or any details that needed more information on.
I only have one, and that is that in the one letter, there was a lot of percentages thrown around. Were they correct? 'Cause I didn't think that that was a correct.
No, they were not.
14% is correct.
They had like a 14%. And
Looks
or some kind of.
Good.
There was another person, I think the 14% was reported by Alamance News, but there was another, there were two other numbers that were not accurate. And they, the resident, there was one number mentioned that was almost $100,000 more for Link Transit than what is actually, but actually, no, I think they said 165,000, but it's only 28 in the budget. And then there was another item. But I did send an email to both of those individuals. I did hear back from one of them. They were aware that we would have public comment this evening. Although it's not in the public hearing, that we would still take public comment. Did anyone receive any comments, questions, concerns outside of the two that we're aware of? I said in my letter that, you know, we want people to be here. We want people to hear what the budget is. We want people to hear about the decisions that we make. We want people to be involved. But they have to show up. And we've made every opportunity. We do 2 public comments every month. We're only required to do 1. We've done the community meetings. I am an open door during office hours on Fridays, like. I don't know what else to do to get people to come and share their concerns and wishes for the town, other than what we already do, and highlight that in our newsletter, which goes out to every address.
Well, I think there's one like, I might have been mulling it over, at one of the lunches. But for like the public hearing for the budget, you know, that is a giant big. Where we could potentially, I know we send it out in our newsletter, but if we really sent out a postcard to every resident that this is our budget hearing. On those big ticket public hearing items, you know, invest in that type of public outreach. I mean, we know, I mean, we see it now that there's not a lot of public input, and we can try if we can. But the general public, I don't think really cares what goes on, but when you say the budget, they really do, right? And that is our biggest responsibility. So I think if we invested in something of those big ticket public hearing, maybe worth it. You know, it's a special one. It's not going to come in with your water bill that gets lost with everything else in your newsletter. It's a like alert.
But I understand that point, but at the same time, like, we give them the information. It is your job as a resident to know what the laws are of your town, what's, you know,
Sure.
like, you
But
have,
we can help.
we have to take personal accountability as residents as well to read the 3-page newsletter that might take 5 minutes. I mean, do we want to spend more money to send a postcard?
I tend to agree with Quinn. I think everybody is aware of what goes on. I think if we did an announcement like we do our Elon Connect, hey, next Wednesday or next meeting Tuesday, Friday before, there's a public hearing. That's one reminder. Now, if they opt not to participate in the Elon Connect, that's one way. That costs us nothing.
Yeah.
Well, we could, as Councilman Quinn said, we could mail a postcard out. It says the same thing. That's probably $600-700 easily to every resident. Which, well, it's gonna be wasted. Those are rental properties. They don't care. So I mean, we just have to be aware that we're going, each year we do this. We're gonna get complaints. And they say, well, I didn't know there was a hearing. Well, they do have a responsibility. Why would we not?
Well, and maybe if we just did it for 1 or 2 years, right? Or 2 to 3 years where we're talking about educating the public. We know because we are involved that budget season is among us from local to national. And other people may be aware of it, but if we started like next year, say, all right, it's budget time, the year after that, it's budget time. But then everybody's getting these alerts, so then they don't get one. But I mean, I think we do have a due diligence to be, as residents, to be informed and be aware, especially if we're wanting to complain, right, or praise. But I also think if we want to invest in our town and we yearn for public input, we should, we could take a little step forward. And maybe we're taking more of a step forward when the residents are meeting us. But it's one of those things I feel like could help us. We wouldn't be going through this issue. Maybe it's for our demise, right? We get this room full of people in a budget hearing.
That's fine. I'm fine with a full room. That's the goal. We want to be transparent and open about what we're doing, then people have to show up. And I'm not opposed to doing more, but then you also have to, those same people are gonna be like, well, you increase the budget for this line item to send us all a postcard.
That's right now.
So it's like, I guess
You're here.
that's,
I guess my concern is, I don't want their understanding of what our budget process is. Like we're editorial.
fair.
I mean, I think it's fair for us to invite people inclusive. I don't want a third party to have to interpret what we did or didn't do without any context that goes with that. So if you allow people to participate in the process, to voice their opinions, yeah, the last thing that any of us want to be rated by more people. But I think we have an obligation to listen to them. If they can point out something there's wastefulness that town should have chose to do, they have a right to do that.
Or even at the very least, right, when we did the public input meetings, y'all reached out to the HOAs and neighborhoods. So just maybe that little extra, we're not obligated to by any means, but the question is, how do we increase more public input? It's us going a little bit further than we have to.
I wonder if other
That's valid.
municipalities do that.
Probably not.
I'm also of the mind that, we're elected to have a responsibility. And we do take this time. We listen to the case that's made of if there's gonna be some kind of an increase, why that increase needs to happen and why it is good for the town and good for the future of the town. And we're the ones at the end of the day, even after all the comments, that have to make those decisions. And so my sense is that we have to really carefully do our due diligence so that it's really clear for us that when we do say to people, yes, you're going to be paying a little bit more this year, but we need to. And we've made a vote to do that. I can stand behind that.
And I think too, it's a good educational opportunity. I mean, I would like for the room to be full every single meeting, but well, that's a lot, I know. But there is a perception that the town manager, the county manager, whoever manager is the person that creates the budget. And while they are the presenter of the budget, this council creates that budget. We approved that budget. We spent hours discussing this budget with the staff and the department heads. This is not a Rich Rodner or whatever other manager shows up with their budget. This is not their budget. This is the town's budget. And I just want to make that very clear. Got that, Thomas?
Mhm.
Okay. Did Stephanie have any comments related to the budget? Okay. Well, we're not voting on this evening. That will be at our first June meeting, correct?
June 13th. Yep.
You're just looking for any direction from us in terms of changes or?
If you had any comments, had questions, if you wanted changes, now would be the time, yeah.
I do have a question about, unless somebody else has one immediately. I have a question, since we have had strong support from students and residents and people from out of town contacting us really over the last 2 years about a skate park. Obviously, we haven't done like a design. We don't yet have a location. We have a proposed budget. What is the plan if that? If this budget is approved and it comes in higher? Obviously, we have verbal commitments that people are willing to help fundraise. I think that there's some opportunity there. Especially if the skate park lands in our downtown area, because that could be part of some downtown fundraising with the 501c3. Maybe they could create a committee to maybe support that. But what happens if we don't get grant funding? The design is double what the expectation is. Is that just an opportunity where you would come to us and look for like a budget amendment? Or I guess there's so many things that have to fall into place in order for us to know exactly where we go.
Yep, and right now, we've got an estimate to build based on some drawings. Because it's a commercial facility, it's a municipal facility. Obviously, it has to be designed by state, designed to code. State statute requires engineers or architects to stamp it. At that point, we'll have a really good design to go out to bid with. We'll also have some estimates at that point to know how close we are budget wise.
Okay.
And yes, it may come in above what we have budgeted, and that'll be a decision the board would have to make at the time as to whether they're going to proceed covering any excess costs or defer to give people such an opportunity to raise money to bridge a gap.
And I would just have a quick follow-up. I think we have learned a lesson from like the Plaza that we know that things are coming in higher. So I would imagine we're taking that into account as we're building our budgets for the future. I'm sure of that, so.
I mean, the one concern I have, obviously, there was some discussion with the city of Burlington about the same type of idea. And obviously, they have a much larger budget than we do. They also have a lot more in recreation offerings than we do. We don't have a soccer field. We don't have a baseball field. We have a basketball court. Do we know what we were going to get into? Because I think we're all for skaters, have a safe place and be attractive. But we have no idea about what that cost could be. Are we trying to build a little league field, so to speak, or are we trying to build one that's going to attract what they say we're going to be skaters from across the country and in the state? If we did something downtown, how much space would that take? And then you have the parking issue. We don't have that much land downtown that we could dedicate. Is it gonna be an acre? Where would we have an acre?
And then downtown, we'd have to have a public facility.
You have to have public facilities.
We just stuck in
downtown-
a really
which
good
downtown
skating.
Problematic, obviously the next logic would be, when you do that at Best Smith Park, where there's, I think we have parking there, there's land there. So that's,
And I think
we're talking about this. but
those
we
are
don't
all
know
things
what
that
we want.
we have to figure out, because yeah, we do have the land at Best Schmidt, but the downtown consultants are adamant that if you're gonna have only one of something, it needs to be downtown because of the economic value of that item. And, I think we've got to talk to some of our external partners who may or may not be in the room about where they might have some property in our downtown area that could support that. Or does it make the most sense to take, let's say 50 to 250 people a weekend are coming into Elon that would have never been in Elon otherwise. Do you want them essentially in Gibsonville, or do you want them in downtown Elon? I think that that's something that we have to decide, but I think that in the planning process, that's something that I really think that we should consider having the skaters be a committee and help develop the plan. And maybe that means that while we budget for a certain amount this year, it might mean that we have to wait another year, or who knows, we might get a grant to support it. I think there's still a little too much up in the air, but we have that basic concept. And when we have money dedicated to it, that really opens it up for grant funding. Because without it, we don't have the same cards to play.
I agree. I don't think that I'm in a full on for, we have much money budgeted for it, where it has to be a July 1, let's start doing the engineering and architectural work of it. Because I do want it done right, as you say. I don't think the Burlington still is planning on one, which I don't think they are. It doesn't hurt us to still do one. I want it to be done right. I don't want to just spend money and have it elsewhere, and it might be a 1 to 2 year process. But I do think if we have money put aside for it, it will open up the opportunities for us to start moving that ball to do it. And getting, an RFQ out there and seeing what's happening.
Well, and some of that might be using some of the money that's proposed in the upcoming budget to have somebody come in and help us do a feasibility. Setting up a committee like you suggest. Getting the skateboarders involved in the features they want to see. And getting some professional advice as to where can this go? What are the impacts? How many people drive to a skate park? Or do they ride their skateboards to a skate park? That may address some of the parking questions. The rest of the parking we have, that's not usually used on Lebanon, might address some of the parking questions. We have 80 spaces there. Quite frequently, most of them are empty. So, there may be some downtown advantages that we might be able to see. We might be able to look to somebody to help quantify some of those advantages, or advantages out at Beth Schmidt. It's a little bit more remote. It's not as easy to get to. Those are disadvantages. But we can certainly, we don't have to start with going out to bid to build something. We can start with understanding what we need, what we want. You could build a high school level facility at this amount of money. You build a college level facility, build a national facility. Somebody said, spend as much as you possibly get, as much as you possibly can, that you can afford. I mean, I think it's probably a true statement. But you may decide that that's not how much, you can't afford to do a national quality, national tournament style skate park.
A quick Google search said normal neighborhood skate parks are between 8,000 and 12,000 square foot.
Okay.
I have no idea what that means. In relative spec, when I'm trying to think downtown.
Well,
An acre is 43,000 square feet. So you're talking about a house lot size.
yeah, the consultants were going to add a skate park to one specific property as this is what it could look like. So they were gonna be adding that.
I think the thing that we're seeing is that there are people coming in and showing interest in this, and it would be something different that nobody else has around the area, which would be good. So it gives us an opportunity there. We know the interest is there. We'll be supported. We just have to go through the proper process, and it's not an overnight thing to kind of figure out what we want to do. And there could be some fundraising opportunities there.
John Peterson, get him involved.
Yes. He was gung ho about it. This is an opportunity for him to make that a reality. Any other questions? I know we've only really talked about the skate park. I know we talked about it at Northland, our last meeting, and we had a whole budget retreat. Any other thoughts? Okay. All right, well, we will vote on that in June.
Okay.
Moving on to new business fiscal year 23 budget amendment number 6, West College Avenue Plaza approved.
I apologize. We did have a question from Stephanie about the
okay.
budget. And the question was about people who are challenging their valuations. How that will affect us or could affect us. We are currently, the budget I've presented to you uses a value of, I think it's $912 million for real estate. At that point, the county was showing us, and I think we were still at 921. So I built in a little bit of a cushion. It is not worst case cushion. One option would be to take the highest monthly drop in value and then translate that, or the highest weekly value drop, and translate that to every reporting period until July. That could put us at $890 million. So, you know, being a little bit aggressive, perhaps, not worst case scenario, but we do have that cushion built in. And ultimately, as we're moving through the budget, and if we see revenues are not coming in, we make adjustments on expenditures. Either by reducing them. If it's something that is imperative, we would come and see the board for additional funding if there's a shortfall of significance. Sales tax, I'm budgeting for 3.45 million. I'm estimating that we'd actually be in the 3.8 million to 3.9 million range. Again, there's a cushion that I left in there in case the economy decides to do something crazy, like, you know, we go into default or something like that, people stop spending money. That doesn't happen, then we have some additional potential revenues there that would help offset property taxes.
Right, now fiscal year 23 budget amendment number 6, West College Plaza approval.
This is a follow-up from your vote 2 weeks ago to award the contract to build the plaza to Bar Construction. As we talked about, we had $370,000 budgeted between us and a contribution from the university. Project came in a little bit over budget for construction. There's some construction administration costs and a small contingency that we should be adding in. Brings about $100,000 short. This amendment would utilize, in essence, well, utilize fund balance. If you recall last week, we also did not pursue a project that put $160,000 back into fund balance. So this would accommodate the funding we would need to complete the plaza project as it's currently designed.
Any questions?
And Mayor, I would move that we would approve the budget amendment.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, letter B, proposed charge off on uncollected parking.
I was just gonna say that was kind of interesting that these two things happen in this meeting.
I'm getting burnt out on talking about parking.
I know.
And I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing about it. So historically, we started doing this a couple years ago. We had parking tickets in our system back from 2008. Our folks were continuously trying to collect on those. As you know, we're a semi-transient population with a lot of students that graduate and move out of state, move on to careers. And then also registrations have a tendency to change over time, and our parking tickets are attached to those tags that may be turned in, lost, stolen. They may change altogether. So we started this process, and unfortunately in 2021 and 2022, I did not come before you. We had some rebounding from COVID. We had some significant personnel changes on our side with the town side as well, and it just didn't hit the priority list, and I actually kind of forgot about it. So I wanted to come back before you. Previously, we'd also decided that having 3 years of old unpaid parking tickets was somewhat manageable. File wise, they're still semi-fresh. We can still try to collect on those, but anything past that was really a moot point. So I'm bringing before you 2000 from July 1 fiscal year, July 1, 2018 through June 2019, the same for 19 and 20, in 20 and 21. Just a quick breakdown, I include the late fines and penalties because that's what we've been charging off in our system. For the 18-19 year, that is $7,125. Those are 95 unpaid parking tickets that we have yet to collect on. They're not also hitting out here, so that tells me they're probably no longer in town. From 19 to 20, it's a little less, $4,425, 59 tickets. And then again, in 2020 to 2021, the total is $5,175, there are 67 tickets. In grand total, we would be charging off $16,725. And keep in mind, this is a collective of 3 years. Instead of coming back next year, I should have just 1 year to present to you. And that's a total of 221 tickets that we have taken the best stab at, but it costs money to continuously send mail, staffing hours to produce those letters. And we're not including that, we're kind of bleeding out and trying to collect, and that's a moot point, so.
And there's also statutory, there's also limited how far we can go back to force collection.
Have you talked to the, sorry,
Yeah, I did have one question. Did you send it to a debt collector?
We have
And that
discussed
split
that,
the Revenue?
yeah, we've discussed that for many, many, many years, and it's far more expensive to do that than to just write it off. That was my understanding of that process.
Mine, you're not losing.
You're not losing anything.
This is not a.
How they operate, where if they, for example, we had $16,000 and they collected 8,000 and we kept 4,000.
And I wasn't in on a lot of those conversations, but there was some issue with doing that, and it turned out to be.
A lot of states do that. That's why I've asked.
It was, and you seem to have more information. Maybe you were in those conversations when those were taking
No, I
place.
deal with credit collections for the last 41 years and you're not gonna get them.
You don't pay them to do it,
Right.
other than what they collect. There's also the NC debt set-off program where the state, somebody applies for a license or a permit or gets a refund from income taxes. I don't know if it could apply to parking tickets.
I doubt there's.
Okay.
But as of right now, we're all we would be doing is writing off this amount for us. But those parking tickets from a statutory whatever, they state if there was, it would come up on somebody's record or something, if.
I'm sorry.
No, it's 3 years.
held internally, and that's part of it is we purge that out of our system, so we stop generating to-do list for collection. And we just,
We're writing them off.
yes,
The
we
tickets
are.
are tied to a vehicle.
Mhm.
Vehicle has a tag. That vehicle is no longer owned. How would you track that person?
Right. That's what they're saying.
That's what I'm saying. You really can't. You would have to do a lot of research to go through DMV files to find it. Do you have a criminal purpose? You do not. It's a civil purpose.
Yeah.
So our hands are kind of tied when it comes to that.
Or they move out of state and re-register in another state.
It's a cost efficient analysis there and you just. You're throwing good money at bad.
I think they should start a new show, a Law and Order show for parking tickets. Sometime, the cold thing.
and
So it's
No.
cold cases.
I don't know what the rules are in North Carolina on this, but if I remember correctly, when I went to Oxford, Ohio and met with the town there, where Miami University is, it seems to me, and again, this is my recollection, I don't have it right in front of me as like written gospel. I believe they told me that they work with the university and that the students do not get their diploma until their parking fees are paid with the town.
We have tried that, and I am privy to Cliff Parker trying to work that in and Richard White trying to work that out. And they had no success because that's what they do. But they don't extend that for the town, and I don't know of any. I haven't done a lot of research on that as to whether or not other university towns.
Isn't it discriminatory? For college students? Because nobody else, I can sit here and park. They're not gonna, I get a bunch of parking tickets, they're not gonna hold anything from me.
I'll tell you though,
And we'll tow college
we
students.
do now. These predate the towing ordinance, remember?
But even a senior next year. can Park for free, basically not paying it. Parking typically. And had to come up. I'm with you, like, I understand what we're trying to do, I just hesitate, maybe that's why they haven't been able to work with the university and get the whole their diploma. But there's, I mean, there's one demographic that we're.
Once again, we're spending a great deal of time for a few $1,000s.
Mhm.
I just feel like, let's do this.
Yeah.
I would make a motion that we. That we follow this and do this. The exact language is that. We propose,
Approve the police department to charge off $16,725 of delinquent parking fees dating back to July 1st, 2018. The records for these parking violations will subsequently be purged from our records management system. You'd like to make that
I
motion?
move what she said.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on, another budget amendment, number 7 for recycling grant.
This is a grant we received last calendar year. And we never actually added it into the budget. So this amendment would add the grant amount of I think it's $6,500. Which we are about to close out the grant, so we figured it'd be a good idea to actually have it in the budget before we did that.
Any questions?
Has it been spent?
Most of it has been spent. I think the postage came in a lot less than what we had budgeted for. We'll be end up getting some of the money back. This how I understood it a week or so ago. We're getting ready to do the closeout.
Did I misread? I thought it says the town's matching responsibility is only 1516.
Yes, that's our money. We
Oh.
received 6,500.
And we're just, okay, and we're amending the budget to receive that 65.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I misunderstood. Okay.
You have a motion to approve budget amendment number 7 as presented.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Do you have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have budget amendment number 8 for fire department PPE.
During our, what I'll refer to as our interim time. When we were absent, some department heads, the current budget called for adding 2 new firefighters to our roles. And there's been some other turnover in the department over the course of this year that has required new employees to fill those positions and who fill out the turnout gear either appropriately or inappropriately. So because it's somewhat sized to the individual, we've had to purchase turnout gear, or we need to purchase turnout gear to be appropriately sized. This would again tap into our fund balance to provide the revenue to acquire those 4 sets of turnout gear, the 2 new firefighters and the 2 new firefighter positions, as well as new firefighters we've hired this year. We have added this line into the budget for next year so that each year you'll probably be seeing some investment in turnout gear. Because it is time limited. There's kind of first line turnout gear and then second line turnout gear. And then it has to be gone. So we're constantly moving things through the process, and we've done large purchases in the past. We do annual purchases to keep on top of it, like, annual purchase like we do with cruisers. We don't wait until they're all dead and then, buy 15 cruisers, recycle them through.
So there's this is on next year's budget, July 1. Is there a reason why we need it now on this budget?
This is the current year's budget, but it will be in next year's as well.
Right, so we're adding to the end, we're adding to the budget of 22. or
22-23. Yep.
22-23. So we're adding to that. Spending more money on this budget and not waiting till next budget.
No, it's in next budget.
It's
too.
already in next year.
Yes.
So why are we
This is
paying
hand.
more money in a month?
Because we need 4 sets now, and then we're gonna need 4 sets in next fiscal year as well. Or however many. sets.
To start a replacement. Instead of, in the past, we've purchased 20 sets at a time. Which I don't think moving forward is a smart thing to do, because if you purchase 20 sets and you lose a couple people, then we have sets that are. This way we can pinpoint each year who needs a set of gear, and we're not wasting buying gear for people that are only gonna be here. In this situation.
What's the lifespan of the turnout?
So NFPA recommends that they get completely replaced after 10 years, but they don't necessarily last 10 years with usage and training and however many fires they go through. So the max is 10 years, and everything else is kind of replaced as needed.
And that's for full-time.
Yeah, these sets that we're purchasing are for full-time employees that are working 60 hours a week, and they're in them every day. I obviously can't buy this gear for everybody we have on roster, but by buying them the gear, and we can start recycling it down into the second tier, things like that.
So do you have to turn away volunteers? before you go into
So I'm almost to that threshold. We've put on more than a dozen in the last 12 months, and our gear is completely depleted. I'll be glad to show you my closet right now. It doesn't have any, so we're anxious to get this started. So
I was on a visit this last week, and there was, I met a gentleman who was part of the Kernersville. And when he found out I was from Elon, he says they have a great fire department.
Yes,
So much to let you know that. With that said, I feel like this is an important thing. I would make the motion that we. Amendment.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second. that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all. Moving on to reports. We'll start with the town manager.
Okay. As you know, next Monday is Memorial Day. Town offices will be closed for the holiday. Because it's Memorial Day weekend, we do not have Music to Die to this coming Friday night. Spring session has the following 2 weeks, June 2nd, June 9th. June 2nd is Gray Matter, and June 9th is Back Porch Orchestra.
Both of them are big ones.
Both of which I've heard Gray Matter, they do a great job. I've heard that Back Porch Orchestra does a marvelous job as well. Those of you that are interested, Link Transit started running through Elon this morning.
Yeah, it's right there. Perfect timing.
Hey,
You couldn't have timed that any better.
well, I've been working on it all. Listening.
Coordination was great.
Right. My wife would look at me and say, thought up a lie, thought it up quick. So it started this morning. There was some confusion last week over the actual route. And we thought we had it resolved, and apparently we didn't. So the sign that was up on Trollinger last Tuesday or last Thursday, whenever it was gone. And so now they're stopping out here. We're trying to get it back on the Trollinger.
The sign, the stop right near Mill Point entranceway is.
Yeah. That was going to be, that stop was going to be on Ballpark.
Mhm.
And then they're gonna come around and stop at Trollinger, and they moved both of those stops to Williamson. Over our objections. So we are working with them to try and get that resolved, because I personally don't think it's a good idea to have the bus stopping on Williamson between the town hall and post office and discharging.
Well, and on that point, the one at Westgate and Williamson is on Williamson.
Yeah.
And I thought it was gonna be on Westgate.
They changed the route.
Well, they.
So instead of coming down Westbrook and then up Westgate, they're now coming in straight up South Williamson from Church Street.
Well, no, they came up Westgate, and when I left to come here, they literally pulled out in front of them or behind them, and they came down Westgate and then took a left on Williamson.
And then stopped.
And then, well, yeah, they stopped on Williamson, but it makes it well, it's at the stop sign, the intersection, right? So it's really awkward to think, and we've already had a bunch of accidents at that intersection the past 2 weeks. So I thought this was gonna be at the 25 mile an hour stop sign on Westgate. So it's like literally on Westgate, but now it's at the intersection where there's a bunch of accidents.
So you, do they stop after they've turned on to Williamson or before they turn on to
They
Williamson?
stop at the stop sign
Before they turn on to Williamson.
before they turn on the Williams.
Okay.
But it seems very, I don't know, I thought it was gonna be on Westgate and not causing backup on the stop
So
sign.
does their website publish their route and the times?
Yes.
There,
I think it's out of date, though. I checked this morning. I thought I was gonna have to ride the bus to this meeting. Had some car trouble.
we call the mayor, she would have got you.
Touched on this.
I didn't know if I wanted to owe her any favors.
She was gonna charge me. She wouldn't-
The newspaper might work that way, we don't.
So anyway, Lake Transit is now running in Elon and we're working with them on clarifying some of these stops and the actual routes. So they still came up Westgate.
Still came up Westgate and the sign is facing Williamson, like when you look at it, you think they're gonna stop on Williamson, and I was like, how are they gonna, if they're going into town, how is that gonna work?
Okay.
Can we include that in the next newsletter if we have time? The next one, we're able to do that, put a section that shows the route.
Yeah.
And the times.
If we can get it straight.
If we're,
Once we know which-
Once we get it.
I
We
think
need to get the
that- I think
bugs
that's
out of
a
it.
good way for folks to realize, hey, it's here.
we didn't put it in the May 1st newsletter because I think we put a promo about it, but they were still working out the graphics and the details and yeah, July 1st, we should be able to put it in there with full information. We are still working with them on the actual location of stops. One advantage perhaps is if they've changed the route, they're in Elon less. We'll talk about lowering our costs. That's how they base the costs, how much time they spend.
That's correct.
They definitely wanna go through, when I followed them, right, they didn't go down through ballpark, and I thought that was.
So I guess I'm confused. We spent a lot of time with Links Transit here. And we came up with I thought was an agreeable route with the planner. So who has the authority to change that?
It's their bus line.
Their bus
And
line.
they changed it last week on us.
Wow. Start off right.
You know.
Right,
there was-
especially because this is a pilot program. Let's
we-
make that real
Yeah,
clear.
the point was, we understood that we may be adjusting it, but we didn't think it would be adjusted before it started.
Right.
Right.
We Give it a shot. So
Similarly,
that's concerning to me.
their stop is gonna be in Beth Schmidt Park. And they've decided they're gonna, stop is gonna be on University.
No,
Oh, that's safe.
So heading outbound toward Gibsonville, they'll be dropping passengers off on the Gibsonville side of University. If they want to, now they have the choice of staying on to go to Gibsonville and then come back and get off at Beth Schmidt if that's where they're headed. Or they can get off and cross University with no crosswalks.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's some discussions to be had.
oh, yeah. Very interesting.
Who's having that discussion?
Lori has been talking to John Ando.
Yeah, keep us surprised and thank you. Very good.
And I think it's all the notes I have for my report.
He made those changes from Hawaii, you know.
Oh, yeah, and also because we didn't take the act thing off.
Anyway. Okay.
Met with the Arts Advisory Council this past Wednesday. We're looking into, Jill really wants each department or committee to have a presence at the farmer's market. So we're looking to do a Arts Council tent on one of these farmers markets. And really try to get interactive with the community. Still looking for people to paint fire hydrants. The one in front of the church looks awesome. We're a big fan of that, but still always trying to pitch that. And other than that, you know, it's kind of slowing down. They were really excited about the potential of downtown and the space that we might get, the old town hall to put the gallery, something like this up in there, like host an art gallery down in there, which would be really fun.
I have a question. I had applied for one, but I never got any more information about it.
Denied.
I was denied.
Did you send in what it to look like?
I don't think I was ever asked to do that.
So you didn't finish the application.
I was in the initial group
And I go,
of, yes,
Yeah, well, and where you have to present what you think
I-
you're gonna put on your
I
fire.
think the problem was we wouldn't allow campaign slogans.
I don't, she said she had a bunch of people
okay.
come in, and I thought we were gonna have them all done.
Yeah, I think we had about 20 applications. And when all was said and done, we had 4 complete ones. So I think 2 have been painted.
Had multiple issues with my email, so it's possible that it was sent to me, but
Well, there is that.
um,
I will touch base with Jill tomorrow and have her get in touch with you.
I look forward to this Memorial Weekend, not having it. I wasn't at this last one, but I was really upset that I thought I was gonna miss Gray Matter. But I will be there for Gray Matter for the Live After 5. They always bring a fun crowd. Also look forward to seeing you guys on Thursday to cheers Dr. Stein. It's good to see here as well as transitioning into the roles. Other than that, that's really all I got.
maybe I missed an email. What's Thursday?
Don is hanging out at
Oak
the
House.
house and
Oh,
sent it out today. And we're
sent
gonna,
it today?
yeah,
It just got sent, yeah.
Oh,
Jill sent it out.
I haven't checked it since like whenever we had our meeting noon-ish, so after that.
I think it was earlier than that.
you're not
Maybe I
invited.
wasn't invited. Randy?
The Sustainability Committee will be meeting again this Wednesday, and one of our members is a student at the college, and so now that we're coming into summer, we're not sure if that person is going to be changing or what, so we're still a fairly small group, but lots of good ideas being generated, and I'm really hopeful that as we prioritize our needs, do the things that you feel are important for the town, that you'll be learning more about that as well. So, and again, I just want to reiterate that farmers market has a different environment now than it's had ever. There's more families coming, the playground is being used, and she also has games. And one person came up and commented that it seemed like it was like a carnival atmosphere. So and definitely our numbers, I clearly sense that the traffic is higher. So we're very excited about that. My hope is as well, though, now we're gonna be in summertime, so the parking lot will be a little less challenging in a while. That as we're talking about things that we may have to have temporary parking on Holt from time to time, and I'm hoping that be a smooth process. But really, the town has really put its stamp on it. I would say that the church maybe helped give it birth, but I really think it's the towns now. And I really think that that's probably the direction it's going to go. If there's any ways we can help, and there's some small ways we continue to help, but this really has become, and I say that in a really positive way, because this town is creating a really strong farmers market in this county. And with the exception of maybe Saxapahaw, we are probably the strongest in this whole county right now. So that's a testament to Joe and also to Sarah. Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure that was clearly stated, because we're seeing something really transformative.
I went there on a Thursday, 2 Thursdays ago, and spoke with a few of them about the flowers. Clark said the week before it sold out in about an hour. They had about 45 bouquets. This time he brought 60, and I got there at 4:45 and he was already sold out. That's just super impressive. Yeah.
He always has a sign, gone back for more flowers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. I mean, there was the person that comes to do the sweet treats was running from the store across the street to get 2 gallons of milk. Whatever they were mixing up. So it was really interesting to me just how surprised I think some of them have been. And each time I talk to a vendor, it's clearly that there's some good things happening.
You gotta get there in the first hour if you want strawberries.
Yeah, yeah, but I hope that people will continue, because obviously that's gonna be with corn and tomatoes maybe in the future, but my sense is that I'm just trying to say that. For a Thursday afternoon farmer's market, it's been very impressive, but I think it's because people like Jill are saying. Get departments out there, get committees out there, we're seeing a presence of town people there. We're seeing a sense that this is really becoming a part of that. And I just want to make sure that you hear that, because that's a really good thing that can happen and really start to continue to develop.
And I'll say, Sarah's been doing a great job marketing,
She is.
highlighting the different vendors, the items they're selling. They're doing Facebook Live when they're down there. It's, you're right, Randy. Kudos to Jill and Sarah. They have really put together a nice package for folks. And we've made it affordable for the vendors so that it's easy for them to participate. And if they are not selling a lot, they're still covering their costs coming, being there. So
I would love to know in the future, and I don't know if it's something that we can measure. If some of these folks are here buying their stuff and then they're heading over here to one of the restaurants or that kind of thing.
Oak House is down there every week buying stuff. So,
Never
it's
know,
a
so.
convenient location to come down and buy local.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what I had.
I just want to tell Stephanie, we're sorry you couldn't make it tonight. We're glad you were able to join us remotely. Had an opportunity to participate in the VGMPO Transportation Committee this past week. And we've got a meeting, town planner with Lori and Rich Friday, talk about projects we may want to submit for the DOT to score and see how they might pan out. But, I think there's a lot of opportunities we're not taking advantage of, whether it's grant money. They can help us with things we hear all the time, sidewalks and safe intersections and making it more pedestrian friendly. So, a lot of good things going on there. Lori's also leading the modal project, and I think that's going to be something that's going to open up opportunities for us to see what it is we want our town to be, and how we can link it with Burlington and Gibsonville and attract people here. So I'm looking forward to that. And most importantly, let's remember what Memorial Day is all about. Just a long weekend. It's for many of those people who gave the ultimate sacrifice. So hope that y'all remember that as you're celebrating your families and loved ones.
We had a downtown advisory committee meeting, or whatever we call it now, I'll get confused. on that.
Board committee.
Board committee. Really good meeting and went over, Jill presented us the kind of a part of downtown master plan, just the first part of that. Really excited about some of the things that have been presented there, and a lot of feedback from the community as far as some input meetings to the downtown area. So I'm glad that we're able to put that extra funds into the center down there, because I think that's going to be really the beginning of helping our downtown to grow, kind of have a official focal point there. I just had a question for Blackwater. Have we been seeing any break-ins in the area? And I asked that question because I think felony lane gang, which I've had some experience with on the financial side, not a good experience. But have we had anything there?
No, thank goodness. We've had sporadic issues with them in places like Richmond Park, things like that, but no, sir.
Okay.
Okay, I just, because I'd seen something recently in the media about that, and that's not a good situation. To kind of let y'all know what that is, they still go in, they still identification pocket, stuff in pocketbooks, and then they come through our drive-through lane, have people that they recruit, and they may look like a little bit like that person, and they go in the far lane, they have ID and everything like that. It's yeah, mask when during COVID, well, I still wear the mask, and it's a very, our teller group has become good at kind of figuring them out, but they have stolen a lot of money statewide, and I'd heard about that, so I was just curious.
I always try to give y'all updates if we have any kind of rash of break-ins and things like that, just to put it on your radar.
I'm glad to hear.
Yes, sir.
Will not. And I'm glad to be back. Sorry I missed last meeting, but I did not feel like being here. Stressed to the imagination, so I feel good now, so that's all from me.
We are, go ahead.
Just one thing before you go on to your report. I just want to say ditto, what Monty shared about Stephanie. Just, we're all thinking about Stephanie.
Absolutely.
You have anything?
Yeah, it's great to, I mean, I know we only have Stephanie online, but that probably means she's feeling at least a little bit better and have you back. So it was kind of lonely up here at our last meeting.
Had a couple out.
So since our last meeting, we had our employee appreciation luncheon. Luncheon, right? Lunch. Which was, I really enjoyed it. I always really enjoy it, but I had several staff people just thank the council for putting that on. So that was nice to hear from them. Gosh, in a whirlwind. Meeting this week. Why was I here at town hall late last week? I don't remember. I had a meeting with someone about something. I don't remember. But I had a meeting on Friday of last week. Must have been great. But I mean, I just think it's such an exciting time in Elon. We continue to hear about, more developments that, want to come here and they want to do it right and according to our land development plan, which I think is excellent news. But I mean, outside of that, we're the second safest town in all of North Carolina and very proud of it. And I hope to keep it that way. I don't have anything else.
Just a real quick side note, as we were talking and made me think about this, the developer that's worked with to had to close that road. They're back there working now.
Oh, they are.
They're finally working. So I just want to let you know.
Gibsonville?
Yeah, it's all in Gibsonville, but it's a lot of our
Yeah.
residents are right there. Stephanie would probably comment on it if she was here, but I just want to let you know that that's happening. So.
Well, that actually brings up another point, and you may not know this, but Lori would, so maybe you can just get back to me. There is a development that we approved years ago that is north of Cable Square, and they haven't started doing any work. If there's a timeline for that, I've gotten a few questions about that. So, I mean, we approved that. I think Mark and I were the only ones on the council at that point.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time. So like the same home builder that's doing the big development, right past Springwood Church on 70.
That happened to be the one that the Corey's purchased the land that they.
No.
Okay.
That's not the one.
Not that one. That was Wilson Homes, I think. No. I don't remember, but no, it's not that one. It's north of there. I
It's on Shallowford or is it on Ossipee?
think it's on Ossipee.
That's what I thought. You said it was just north of Cable Square.
Westwood Homes.
There's Wexford that's building out on
Have they started?
Gibsonville, Ossipee.
Oh, no, not that.
Bill Elon Road off of Manning. That one's under construction. That was
But they
Wexford.
have started?
Yeah,
Maybe that. I can't remember. It might be that one, but I've had a couple people ask when they were gonna start building, but maybe
I think,
they're already clearing the land, but. maybe-
Separate road from Cable Square, though.
Yeah, that's a complete separate road.
It's on-
Yeah, that's right. It's on the backside of Kibble Square.
Yeah.
Um,
I will
Find
check with
out.
Lori and I'll let you folks know.
all right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, say aye. We stand adjourned. Thank you all.
No, all right. What happened was that there was three of us, so one would